plenty of news to talk about. A little update for you guys. CLGEU was acquired by Evil Geniuses, so Snoopy, Creepo, Yellow Pete, Frogan, and Wicked will now have the name EG in front of their names now.
Yeah, it's kind of a cool story. I was talking to Slasher a little bit about it today. He wrote a full article. It's up on GameSpot, if I'm not mistaken.
How long ago?
Allegedly, this deal makes the formerly CLGEU, now Evil Geniuses, makes them the highest paid League of Legends team in the world. So, cool to think about.
Geniuses doing things right.
Before we move on, I want to take just a second to pay homage to one of our predecessors. I think first-person shooter can be easily argued as being the first esport. The days of Quake, the days of Counter-Strike, and basically everything in between set the foundations for what is modern-day esports. I sat down with Shane Rafa Hendrickson to talk to him a little bit about FPS, why it was great before, and why maybe it's not as popular now as it once was. Here's what he had to say. All right, welcome to the show, Shane Rafa Hendrickson, one of the most prolific Quake players, certainly the winningest Quake Live player of all time. Rafa, thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Hey man, thanks for having me. Good to be here.
Now, Shane, you have a long history in FPS. For those of us that might not know as much about it, tell us how you got your start and kind of what your career was like.
At QuakeCon in 2002, I was like 11 or 12 years old when I first got introduced to pro gaming and what it's like. At the time, the two of the best players in the world were North Americans, and they were Fatality and 0-4. And as a 12-year-old kid, I got to stand right behind them and watch them play this famous match where Fatality ended up winning. And right then, I was kind of hooked. And then I won my first tournament at in Athens for ESWC Masters of Athens in 2008 in Quake 3. And then after that is when I, to put it bluntly, steamrolled in Quake Live for a good year and a half.
Why do you feel that FPS is not as popular amongst esports fans as it once was?
One big difference maybe is it seems there's a more balanced ranking system within RTS and MOBA games right now, so that you can play people at your skill level and feel like you're improving and you can see your improvement. Where in FPS, it's very, very, very hard to determine a ranking system for players. Somebody needs to find a way to properly rank people in FPS for it to be in a better playing field.
If we look at the history of Counter-Strike, we had Counter-Strike 1.6, we had Counter-Strike Source, now we have Counter-Strike Go, and there's a lot of fracturing within that community. Have you seen that in other FPS communities, and do you feel like that could be a part of the difficulty in creating a big FPS esport?
I definitely have to agree with that. I think like the fact that sometimes there is too much saturation of choice, and what you're able to play kind of like splits up the communities. But for some reason right now with MOBA games, like a lot of people are putting their attention towards like one or maybe two. I don't know. I think everybody's just hoping that there's some game that comes out that magically has everything that they want that everybody else wants as well, like some perfect balance.
Well, let's talk about the game that you are playing right now, as you are competing regularly, or as regularly as there are events, in Shootmania. How do you feel about Shootmania just as a game itself? Do you enjoy the game? Does it have all the elements necessary to build a competitive scene around?
I haven't played a game yet where I feel like you have to be clutch every single second of the game. Where in this game you do, like everything relies on exactly what you do all the time. There isn't really room for like making up for mistakes. Like if you make a mistake, it could cost your team, and I think that's what really, motivates a lot of people to play it. Like there's nothing like it.
What is the one thing that you feel like FPS really needs to experience another boom like it did with Quake and with Counter-Strike?
I don't know. I think people just need to get behind something and actually support it. I feel like people that play League of Legends and StarCraft and watch it as well, they have so much passion for the game that they actually do something about it, that they watch streams or that they help promote content and stuff like that. And I feel that a lot of people in the FPS communities want other people to do it for them. Maybe it's some like bad habit we've formed based on how tournaments have been in the past, or like just how things have happened, but there needs to be more community involvement and like push to help each other and to I don't know, to get it to a better state than what it is.
Thank you so much, Shane. Ladies and gentlemen, Shane Rafa Hendrickson, most prolific Quake Live player of all time with over $100,000 in lifetime winnings. You can follow him on Twitter at SKRafa. We'll be back. That haircut. Oh, man. Shane's a great guy, a fantastic first-person shooter player. PC FPS has had its ups and its downs, but console FPS is something else that we have to talk about, as it has really sort of risen to prominence as one of the biggest games that's played on console, certainly in North America. For a long time, Halo was the flagship title of MLG. They recently announced that they will no longer be carrying Halo and will instead be running Black Ops. Dan, you were a pretty good Halo player for a while.
Thank you.
You played at, I think you say you were classified as semi-pro due to the way MLG ranked people.
Yeah, I never really had like a way to break into big pros. It's really tough to do that because MLG only has a certain amount of circuits or tournaments every year, and you have to place top 16 at least to be considered a pro.
So what's going on with this announcement that MLG is no longer going to be carrying Halo?
So MLG, I mean, they've had a lot of sit-downs, they've had a lot of people review, they've had people in the community try to make game types for Halo 4, but it's just not easily being supported. Microsoft said that it's really tough for them to support their games because they've already signed contracts, and so MLG was negotiating with Microsoft to have these games at their tournaments. But Halo 4, despite people being really excited for it initially, and 343 picking up after Bungie, has not been able to really show that kind of customizable options. And I had an opportunity to talk to some Halo pros who are kind of deflated, you know, that Call of Duty got picked up over Halo, and this is what they had to say.
That haircut.
Oh, come on, Ben.
Man.
How do I look now, man?
You look beautiful.
That's what's important.
You look beautiful.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Your favorite first-person shooter. There have been a lot of them through the years. I was a big Half-Life player, and I played a lot of Team Fortress Classic, and of course, a lot of Counter-Strike. Quake was awesome to watch. Halo was a game that I spent a lot of time with in my college years. I've played a lot of FPS through the years.
Why don't you just stick with one, Ben?
You guys,
That's a good question.
I mean,
you got,
No, I'm serious.
I played it.
Because the
I played a
game's
lot
changed.
of Counter-Strike in my day too. I remember in the beta when you could actually zoom in with the M4 way back in the day, and actually watching some of the competitive scene. Looking at the history, we're in a void right now for shooters. There's not a prominent esports first-person shooter, at least for the PC. And that stemmed from the division of what happened with Counter-Strike 1.6 and Source. Sponsors wanted to push a more graphic-intensive game. The player base did not want that to happen. So the sponsors were putting up the tournaments. They became a division, and that's how that void got created.
you know, in a crazy turn of events, Ben, I could have been one of those FPS guys there that you interviewed, where you guys would have been here. You know why? Because when I bought Warcraft 3 for the very, very first time, and back then I knew absolutely zero about esports. The only games I played were with my brother. I played some Command & Conquer. Then I was kind of active on this GameCube forum, and there were these guys who bought this game called Warcraft 3, and they told me it's fun. And I was like, okay, so I went to the store, I bought Warcraft 3, and like when you're young, you're always really proud of the games you buy, you know. So I like removed the price tag really carefully, put it in the trash bag, put the box on my desk. I was so proud, and I played this game, and I hated it. I was like, this game is so stupid, and they were using spells and stuff, and I didn't know how to do it, and I was getting really mad over like MSN voice chat. I was like, what is this game? So next day, because you have 24 hours, you can return the game. The next day, I grabbed the price tag out of my trash can, put it back on the box, brought my Warcraft 3 box to the store to exchange it for Unreal Tournament 2002. But Unreal Tournament 2002 was sold out. So I walked around that store and I was like, I guess I keep this game.
And it's changed forever.
And thus, a RotterdaM was born. Wow, if that's not worthy of the weekly Roddy pose, I don't know what is. Guys, Dan and I have been talking. We think, Kevin, show us the Roddy pose. Can we get the ISO there? Let's see the Roddy pose. We love the Roddy pose. There it is. If you go on Kev's Facebook, if you go on his Twitter, a multitude of Roddy poses. Every photo
do
that
it the other way, Kev. Do it the other way.
Every photo that Kev ever takes is it features the Roddy pose. So Dan and I were talking about other things that can do the Roddy pose. Introducing.
That's not the Roddy pose.
That's totally the Roddy
it's
pose.
totally this is your weekly Roddy.
That is the weekly Roddy pose. All right. We're going to take one final break, guys. Before we do, I want to ask the audience, what is your favorite first-person shooter? Is it Halo? Is it Call of Duty? Is it Quake? Is it Counter-Strike? Maybe it's something else.
Painkiller.
Tell them how to do it.
All right, there seems to be a lot of controversy already going on with this question. I'm no expert in first-person shooter games, but it seems like you guys are really into Quake. What do you guys think? Tell me all about it. What is your favorite FPS? Is it Halo, Call of Duty, Counter-Strike, or Quake? Vote A, B, C, or D, and as soon as Ben brings us back, we'll find out what you guys think.
Don't go anywhere, guys. The Pulse returns after this short break. We have a very special segment to close out the show. You are not going to want to miss it.